Title: Ashes of Life. Chapter 1: The Silence Before the Sirens Had Stopped 2 days ago. Leah knelt in the corner of a narrow alley behind a shuttered bakery, a bloodied gauze roll clutched in her shaking fingers. Her knuckles were raw, and the EMT jacket she hadn't taken off in 4 straight days was stiff with sweat and dried blood. Somewhere in the distance, a car alarm screamed into the night, then abruptly cut out. She hadn't slept. No one had, not really. She stared at her hands. They didn't feel like hers anymore. The last patient she'd tried to save had bitten her. Not hard, just a scratch, really, but enough to make her drop him. He'd been foaming at the mouth, eyes wild, flailing with a strength that didn't belong to someone with a gut wound. When his breathing stopped and he got back up 10 minutes later, she'd run. Her bag was lighter than ever, supplies gone, her radio dead. She hadn't heard from dispatch in almost 36 hours. She pulled her hood tighter around her face. The streets were mostly quiet now, save for the soft shuffle of movement that never quite stopped. People, if you could still call them that, walked differently now, like their bones had forgotten how to bend. A bang echoed from inside the bakery. Her breath caught. She pressed herself flat against the bricks, pulling the rusted trauma shears from her belt. Not much of a weapon. Her heart pounded in her ears. Then she heard it again. Closer. A voice, not a groan, a word. Help. She stood slowly, eyes wide. Someone was in there, alive, or worse, not dead enough. Leah's fingers trembled around the door handle. It creaked under the slightest pressure, like the building was warning her. The voice inside hadn't repeated. That was almost worse. Her breath fogged the glass as she leaned close, eyes straining to see through the dust-caked window. Shelves overturned, broken display case, flour on the floor, streaked with something darker. She slid in quietly, trauma shears in her hand like a knife. The air was thick with rot and yeast. Every nerve in her body was screaming to run, but she couldn't ignore the possibility. If someone was alive, she had to help. "Hello?" she whispered, low and sharp. "If you're hurt, say something. I'm not infected." Silence. Then a thump from the back room. She inched forward, her shoes crunching over broken sugar packets and shattered glass. The kitchen door was cracked open, swinging slightly. Beyond it, a figure moved, slumped, crawling. Leah raised the shears. "Stop! I'm armed." The figure didn't stop. It mumbled, then cried. Don't leave me," it said. She approached slowly. The figure was a teenage boy, maybe 16. His leg was mangled, pants soaked red. He was dragging himself toward a toppled rack, eyes wide with panic, not clouded, not dead. "You're okay," Leah said, lowering her weapon. "I'm Leah. I was a medic. Can you walk?" I think they bit me," he said. "They bit my leg." Leah froze. His skin was pale, lips dry. He was shaking hard. I didn't feel it until later. She looked at the bite, deep, ragged, still fresh, no fever, not yet. "I need to stop the bleeding," she muttered, but her hands were already pulling supplies, still pretending, maybe to him, maybe to herself, that he had time. Chapter 2: Converging Paths. The boy died at dawn. Leah hadn't slept. She sat against the bakery's cold wall, the kid's hand wrapped loosely in hers. She hadn't asked his name. That was the worst part. His fever spiked around 3 in the morning. By 4, he was convulsing. By 5, gone. He never woke up again. But he did get up again. She hadn't waited to see it. She wrapped his body in plastic from the bakery's back room, dragged him behind the dumpster, and locked the back gate shut. The way his head had tilted when she dropped him felt wrong, like the spine had already started twisting. Now she walked, fast, quiet, toward a plume of smoke she'd spotted an hour ago. It meant fire, and fire meant people. People meant danger or safety. She didn't believe in safety anymore. Jace was already cursing when he spotted her. He had barricaded himself in a broken-down tire shop, trying to change a fan belt on a junker. His hands were slick with oil and rust, and now, just his damn luck, someone was walking straight down the street like it wasn't suicide. He peered through a crack in the wall. Woman, lean build, worn-down medic jacket. A limp, maybe? She looked alert. Careful. He didn't like careful. Careful people didn't trust anyone, which meant he couldn't either. He chambered around and kept quiet. Waited. Then she stopped, looked straight at the building. "You in there?" she called, voice low, controlled. "I'm not sick. I'm looking for fuel or a place to rest, not a fight." Jace hated being predictable. He opened the door, slowly, shotgun down but visible. "Got a name?" he asked. "Leah." He nodded once. "Jace." That was all either of them said for a long time. Noah saw them first from the rooftop. Two figures, standing still, not infected, talking, which was weirder than seeing the dead. The dead didn't talk, not unless you were dreaming or losing it. He grabbed the flare from his pack, cracked it, and aimed for the street just past the tire shop. It hissed bright orange as it arced. Down below, Leah and Jace both ducked, startled. Leah raised her hands. "Don't shoot," she said. "Someone's up there." Jace lowered his gun slightly and squinted toward the roof. Then, like a ghost, a thin guy popped his head out and waved. "Hey," he shouted, "don't run. I got food." Jace gave Leah a sidelong glance. "I hate this already." His name was Noah, and he talked like he hadn't spoken to a human in weeks. Probably hadn't. He had rigged the top floor of a dorm building into a small fortress. Traps on the stairs, rainwater barrels, a map of the city with possible safe zones marked in red. "So this one here," he said, pointing to a red X. "This is where I saw them gather." Not like wandering, like waited. Leah leaned in. They waited for someone? "I think they were circling something. A bus, maybe. I don't know. But they didn't go after it. They just stood there." Jace frowned. "They're learning. Or someone's leading them," Noah said, almost whispering. The silence stretched too long after that. They slept in shifts that night. Leah took first watch. Jace tried sleeping, but every time he shut his eyes he saw Marcy's face, bloodied, screaming, pulled from the truck by a crowd with too many hands and too few eyes. He got up and wandered toward the hallway. He wasn't alone. A figure stood at the end of it, ragged, grinning. His hair was wild, clothes filthy. His fingers twitched like he was typing on invisible keys. "I knew you'd come," the man said. "You always do, when the equation tightens." Jace lifted the shotgun. "What the hell Name's Professor," the man said. "Don't ask for more, that's all there is." He raised both hands like in a prayer and stepped closer. "I've been tracking the swarm," he whispered, "not by instinct, by design." Leah didn't trust the man from the moment she saw him. Noah was intrigued. Jace just wanted to hit him. The professor scrawled in books no one could read, drew diagrams with circles and teeth and arrows, talked about patterns in consumption, claimed the infected followed a law, a divine equation of appetite. They should have thrown him out. But that night, when the group of dead found the building and surrounded it, the professor didn't panic. He pulled out a flare and a bag of beef jerky. walked to the edge of the roof, and dropped them in opposite directions. "They'll split." Watch they did. Leah stared at him like he was poison. He smiled. "Math," he said. "Just math." Chapter 3. Fractured Realities. Noah was the first to hear it. A hum. Faint. Like static, wrapped in breath. The others didn't react, just him. He sat against the wall of the crumbling stairwell, hands over his ears, trying to trace the direction, but it came from everywhere and nowhere. He said nothing. Not yet. They left the dorm at sunrise, crawling through alleys and side streets. Their plan was simple. Find a working vehicle and get out of the city. Noah had a location marked from a tweet he'd seen in the early days, a stadium evacuation center. It was probably long overrun, but hope was currency, and they were all broke. Jace hated traveling in a group. Too many noises, too many chances for something to go wrong. He walked rear guard with his shotgun loose and his nerves tighter than barbed wire. The professor, meanwhile, whispered equations to himself, sometimes aloud. Leah had snapped at him twice. "Could you shut up for 5 damn seconds?" "But silence," he replied, eyes gleaming, "is where the signal hides." Noah scribbled it in his notebook. Leah shot him a look. He shrugged. 3 blocks later, they found the man, tied to a post in the center of a grocery store parking lot, arms limp, head drooping. A sign duct-taped to his chest read, "Bitten. Let him choose." He looked up when they approached. His eyes were clear. Leah rushed forward, crouched beside him. "How long ago?" "Hours," he rasped. "Maybe 5. "Where?" He turned his arm, revealing the wound. Ugly, infected, but not spreading. Jace raised the shotgun. "No," Leah said quickly. "He's going to turn," Jace said. "You want him to eat one of us first?" "He's talking," she snapped. "He won't be for long." The argument grew fast and sharp. Noah watched, frozen. The professor watched, intrigued. "No fever?" Leah insisted. "Let him go." "You saw the last one," Jace said. "He talked, then he screamed, then he bit." "We don't even know how it works," she said. "And you want to wait to find out?" "I want to believe something's left." The professor tapped the sign. "He is choosing, just slowly." Noah stepped forward. "What if we ask him?" The man blinked up at them. I don't want to die, but if I turn, please." He didn't finish. Leah sat with him, held his hand. Jace turned his back. The man died at sunset. This time, they stayed to see what happened. It took less than 5 minutes. His eyes shot open, mouth locked open in a permanent scream, muscles convulsed like a puppet yanked by strings. Noah backed away. Jace raised the gun, but Leah beat him to it, swinging the shears she kept holstered to his neck. The sound of cartilage and windpipe snapping was too soft for the violence of the moment. The thing collapsed. No one spoke. The sun dipped low. They made camp in a burned-out motel that night. Jace sat outside the door with the shotgun across his knees. Noah flipped through the professor's notebook while he slept, deciphering strange symbols, math equations, and phrases like neural cohesion and sympathetic triggers. Leah sat on the bed, staring at her bloodied hands. "We're not okay," she said to no one. The professor sat up from the floor. "None of us are, that's the point." "What's this about signals?" Noah asked. "What are you actually writing?" The professor grinned. "Resonance, pattern recognition. They're not just walking, they're listening." "To what?" Leah asked. "To us." Out in the street, just beyond the light of the motel's broken window, stood 8 infected. silent, still, watching. Then, like clockwork, they all turned toward the building as one. Then they moved. Chapter 4. Echoes of the Past. The motel was gone behind them now, just another haunted shell. Ahead lay the edge of what once was a town, the kind with one blinking stoplight and a church sign still announcing potluck this Sunday, like God hadn't canceled the world. Noah walked in silence, head down, hoodie up. He counted steps. Every fifth crack in the pavement was wider than the last. He did that now, made up patterns to fight the silence. Behind him, Jace muttered to himself, just low enough that no one asked questions. Leah kept her eyes on the street corners. The professor zigzagged ahead, sometimes stopping to talk to nothing. A breeze kicked a child's pinwheel across the road. It spun fast, clattering to a stop against Noah's boot. He picked it up. It was blue, cheap plastic, still clean. He looked around. No kids, no sounds, just wind. "Keep moving," Jace said. Noah dropped the pinwheel and obeyed. They found the house late afternoon, a small place on the edge of the town square. White paint peeled like sunburned skin. The front door had a boot print denting it inward but not broken. Inside it was quiet. The family was long gone or long dead. Leah moved through like a medic again, checking corners, clearing rooms. She found an old photo album on a table and paused. It was open to a picture of 2 kids and a dog in Halloween costumes. She didn't touch it. "Upstairs is clear," Jace called. "Basement's locked," Noah added. "Then we stay," Leah said. "One night." No one argued. Jace found the liquor first. 3 bottles in a cabinet under the sink. He didn't ask permission, just cracked the cap, took a long pull, and sank to the floor beside the kitchen table. "You ever fix a car for 20 years and still drive a piece of shit?" he said aloud, not really to anyone. The professor nodded solemnly. "That's the system's joke." "I built an engine once," Jace went on, "by hand. Meant to give it to Marcy when she graduated. Took me 6 months. Never finished the goddamn fuel line." He sipped again. "Didn't matter. She didn't live to see the diploma." The room didn't answer him. That made it worse. Upstairs, Noah sat on a child's bed. Pink blankets. A music box that didn't work anymore. He clutched his knees, stared at the wallpaper. Stars and moons and rabbits. He tried to picture his own room. Couldn't. He'd left in a rush. Campus evacuation. Mom's last message just said, "Stay alive." He'd deleted it, not out of anger. Out of fear he'd need to play it every day and forget the sound of her real voice. Downstairs, the professor was drawing again. Circles, teeth, eyes. "They know," he said. "Know what?" Leah asked, crouched in the doorway, watching him work. "When we hesitate, when we argue, when we mourn, that's when they get close." Leah crossed her arms. "That's paranoia." "That's math," he replied and scratched harder. That night, Leah couldn't sleep. The creaks of the house played tricks on her. She found herself staring at the ceiling, thinking. In the last hospital she worked before the fall, she'd euthanized 4 patients in one shift, all elderly, all abandoned. No families called, just her and a clipboard. And afterward, she'd walked outside, looked up at the sky, and realized she couldn't remember any of their names. Now every time she tried to save someone, she thought about them, like she owed it. Like survival meant carrying their weight, too. Down the hall, she heard the professor whispering. She got up. He was in the bathroom, writing on the mirror with toothpaste. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine," he said. The mirror was blank. That's unnatural. She didn't have the energy to argue. Instead, she asked, "What were you before?" He blinked. "A biochemist. At least that's what my badge said. Worked in a lab with lights so bright you could see your bones through your skin." "You went crazy before or after this all started?" He smiled. "Yes." They heard the moaning at dawn. Software like a broken engine trying to turn over. It came from the backyard. Jace, Leah, and Noah all crept out. A woman knelt in the dirt, alone, mud-caked, shivering, alive. "Help," she said. Jace raised his gun. "Could be bait." "She's alive," Leah said. "Could be turning." The woman looked up, and behind her, emerging slowly from behind the hedges, 6 of them, staggering, surrounding her but not attacking, just waiting, watching, like they knew. "Something's wrong," Noah whispered. They hadn't seen the group yet, just the woman, just her fear. Leah looked at the others. "We're getting her." Jay stepped back. "It's a trap. We're not leaving her. We could all die. She's right there." And then the professor appeared at the window. "They know we're here," he said softly. "They're listening." Leah moved first, into the yard, fast. The others had no choice but to follow. The infected turned, all of them, not toward the woman, toward the house. Chapter 5. Descent. The street behind them was quiet again. Leah didn't speak as she slammed the back gate of the house shut. Her hands trembled. Blood, she didn't know whose, dripped from the shears tucked in her waistband. Noah was pale, eyes fixed on the spot where the infected had stood still, watching, as if waiting for a signal that never came. Jace paced, restless, angry. "Next time," he said to no one, "we don't stop. We don't talk. We don't play saviors." No one responded. The professor, crouched on the sidewalk, dipped his finger into the blood-soaked dirt and drew a half-circle. Then another. He hummed something tuneless, almost gentle. "We should go," Noah said finally. "They'll come back." Leah nodded. But she didn't move. They traveled deeper, into the outskirts. The city had bled into farmland, long overgrown roads, fences tangled with vines, rusting barns where even birds wouldn't land. The silence was different here, heavier. The professor called it the dead space. Noah started to believe it. By midday the heat set in. Water was low, temperatures lower. They passed a stripped-down gas station. Its sign hung sideways, shattered glass crunching underfoot. Leah checked inside. Nothing useful. Jace stayed outside, watching the road. He saw the first one by accident, standing in a field, not moving, not facing them, just standing. Then another, 10 feet away, and another. He didn't say anything at first, just stared. Only when Leah returned did he speak. "They're planted," he muttered, "like fence posts." Noah looked. "Why aren't they moving?" "Maybe they're not alive," Leah said. The professor shook his head. "They're waiting." The night before, Jace had dreamed of Marcy again. This time, she wasn't screaming. This time, she looked hungry. He sat alone behind an abandoned hardware store as the others slept. One shell left in the shotgun. He thumbed it in and out of the chamber without thinking. He'd always known the world could go bad. But this was something worse. Not chaos, not random, pattern. He wasn't a man made for mystery. He liked machines. Problems with parts. This wasn't that. The next morning they found a dead horse in the road. Strange thing was, it hadn't been eaten. Just collapsed, no wounds, eyes open. The professor approached first. "It's whole," he said, crouching. No bites, no break, just done. Noah knelt beside him. Starved? Maybe, Leah said. No, said the professor. Witnessed? Everyone ignored that. They moved on. They reached an abandoned barn by evening. The doors were half open. Inside, hay still scattered, tools rusted, a cot shoved into the corner. Someone had lived here. Recently. A pot over old coals, a tattered sweater folded neatly on the bed. Someone left in a hurry, Leah whispered. Jace checked the rafters. No one. They stayed the night anyway. Noah found the journal under the cot. Small, leather-bound, scribbled in messy handwriting. He flipped through it by flashlight, lips pressed together. The words were jumbled, rambling, but one phrase repeated. They know when you lose hope. Noah didn't sleep that night. He just watched the rafters and waited. Leah woke up choking. The professor had lit something on the floor, herbs or rot. Smoke curled in low waves. What the hell? She coughed. Old trick, he muttered. Smoke carries thought, clears the residual. You trying to get us killed? He smiled. Only if the wind listens. She stared at him. The moment held too long. She didn't speak, just grabbed her bag and walked outside. The sky was purple with dawn. The fields were quiet, but the wind had changed direction. Jace didn't like the barn, the cot, the sweater, the smell. It reminded him of the house they found his family in. Everything too neat, too untouched, like death had knocked politely. He took the first watch, then second, then didn't wake Noah for the third. He sat alone with his shotgun, finger twitching. Every sound was louder, every whisper in the grass a footstep. He didn't notice the movement behind the silo until it was too late. A single figure, then another, then 6. They didn't charge. They didn't moan. They just stood. And then one by one, they sat in the field like a funeral audience, watching. Chapter 6. Ashes of Life. They moved before dawn. The road had collapsed at the edge of the ridge. Massive concrete slabs dropped 30 feet into a dead forest below. There was no going back. Ahead was a narrow footpath, steep and broken, winding through the mist of a valley none of them recognized. Noah pointed to a stretch of rusted fencing and overgrowth near the tree line. There's a utility tunnel behind that, he said. I think it connects to an old service route. It might go under the ridge. Jace wiped sweat from his face. You think, or you know? I read about it during the campus lockdown, Noah said. Old escape maps. Jace grunted. Then let's move. Leah didn't speak. She looked pale, cold, like something inside her had locked up again. The professor mumbled equations under his breath, dragging a stick in the dirt as he walked. No one looked at what he was writing any more. They reached the fence 10 minutes later. That's when the moaning started, low, dozens of voices, some far, some not. Jace turned fast, shotgun up. Shit, we've got company. From behind the hills over the fallen ridge, a slow tide of infected, not running, not rushing, but constant. Leah scanned the trees. We're exposed here. Noah dropped his pack, kneeling near the fence. I can cut through. Give me 2 minutes. You have one, Jace said, checking his ammo. The professor just smiled and whispered, The test comes now. Noah worked fast, fingers shaking as he sawed through the wire with a multi-tool. Leah crouched behind him, watching, her face unreadable, her hands twitching. She looked toward the trail they came from, the hill, the tide. There were too many. She looked at Noah. Then, quietly, she stood, turned, and walked 20 feet the other way. Behind the rise was a single radio beacon tower, broken, its control panel still blinking, a false signal running a loop. She opened the casing. Inside was a switch. Connected to a flare, she lit it, then turned and walked back. The infected followed the light. Noah saw them coming from the opposite side, dozens heading directly toward the beacon, toward him. Wait, why are they... He started. Leah grabbed his arm. They're splitting. This is your chance. Keep them looking at you. What? You're faster than them. Get through. Loop around. Noah blinked. You want me to lead them off? It's the only way. He hesitated, then nodded, and ran. Jace and the professor cut through the other side of the fence. Leah followed. She didn't look back. They moved quickly through the tunnel, an old maintenance shaft half flooded, smelling like mold and rot. The infected never followed. When they emerged into the next valley, it was empty, silent. Noah never caught up. They made camp in the shell of a burned-out schoolhouse. Leah sat alone near the collapsed chalkboard, staring at the floor. Her fingers were caked in dried blood, her knuckles scraped. Jace smoked a damp cigarette. The professor scribbled something on the wall with a rock. Gone, Jace muttered, just like that. No one just dies, the professor replied. They become data. They re-enter the system. Shut up. Leah didn't say anything. That night, she lay awake, no dreams, no tears, only the sound of the wind. And somewhere inside her chest, a silence that felt like it would never stop echoing. They kept walking, no direction, no plan, just forward. The professor hummed. Jace counted bullets. And Leah kept her eyes on the horizon. The final infected they saw were not chasing. They were standing in rows, like statues, watching, waiting.